Next item on the agenda is an ordinance adopting the budget for all corporate purposes for the Village of Park Forest, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois, in lieu of the appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing on the first day of July 2010, ending on the 30th day of June 2011. We've had fairly thorough discussion of the budget over a course of several weeks, component by component, then some more general review sessions and a PowerPoint presentation earlier at a meeting, and the public hearing on the budget, all of those particulars. Now, tonight, we come down to the final action where it's on the agenda for adoption, but we have one last time if anyone wants to address the issue or ask any questions. Does the manager have anything to add?
Mary and I talked about this, whether we would actually walk through the components of what's before the board, and I'll do just a brief overview for anybody that's sitting at home and hasn't been privy to our process to this point in time. As the mayor says, that our budget process is a year-long process, and we're at the summit, I think, of moving into the next year, and we'll probably take the month of July off before we start putting together the 2011-2012 budget. But just to remind residents at home who aren't familiar with our process or want to learn more about it, we did the public introduction the first week of May, which is really part of our procedure. The board carried out 5 different review sessions with every department and every fund in the budget throughout the course of May. Those meetings were open to the public. We answered any questions that the board might have, went back and refined things as necessary. We scheduled a first reading and public hearing of the budget with our board meeting on June 14th. And here we are tonight. And what I think the public needs to know as far as the budget, it's been established with board goals that came out of strategic planning last fall. Just to remind people at home how our process unfolds, there is the strategic planning that starts with the facilitator. We work towards goals from the board. As part of that goal-setting process, there is feedback from the community that's sought through the community survey. Sometimes we look at focus groups. We look at a focus group or a staff review session on what the professional staff thinks needs to be on the board's attention. The board looks at establishing those goals in tandem with putting together the tax levy by which the budget will actually be put together, and that gets established in the preceding year. So in this case, for the budget that will start July 1st, the tax levy was adopted in December of 2009. Around that tax levy, the board goals and fiscal policies, which I think is the third cornerstone of our budget process that really kind of keeps the board on target as far as very sound fiscal conservative principles. And I think it's kind of helped us weather the storm over the last couple of years that we've talked about. The board knows what its goals are for the upcoming year. There's 5 of them, and they're listed in the cover memo. A few things I think we'd like to accentuate is we put together a long-range plan in 2009, I believe it was, looking at a 5-year plan through 2012. The board has seen a number of these items come to fruition. In spite of a downturn economy, housing market, and what's going on with the banking institutions. We've also taken on a new initiative to look at things from a sustainability standpoint, both from a financial, environmental, and an infrastructure perspective. All of those items will be covered with the 2010-2011 budget. And then just some cost-saving measures that the village has looked at to try and keep its cost under control as much as possible. We've got a 2% cost of living increase for most of the staff within the village, 1.5% for department heads and the manager. We're in the midst of a modified hiring freeze where at least 5 positions have been held off, with additional positions also restructured, going from full-time to part-time. All under the guise of trying to keep costs down when and where possible. I think ultimately what the board has in front of it for its consideration, and the public should have peace of mind, is that by the time we get to this point in the process, we've really laid the groundwork for how the tax dollars are going to be spent. I think the board has done a real good job in soliciting public feedback, whether it's within the review sessions, whether it's at board meetings, our neighborhood meetings, community surveys. I'm not sure that there is a taxing body serving Park Forest and maybe even other municipalities, if I don't sound too egotistical, that goes to the extent that we do to solicit public input, whether it's through the boards and commissions, neighborhood meetings, et cetera. So we bring it to the board tonight, answer any final questions before we ask for you to consider approving it with the regular meeting that ensues after this meeting.
Any questions at all from anyone, or any additional comments? Okay, moving, oh, I'm sorry, anything over there?
No, I have no 11th hour.
Good, very good, that's good to hear. Okay, then we will have this under consideration for adoption at our regular meeting. Now moving to the debatable agenda. The first item on the debatable agenda is an ordinance adopting the budget for all corporate purposes for the Village of Park Forest, Cook and Will Counties, Illinois, in lieu of the appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year commencing on the first day of July 2010 and ending on the 30th day of June 2011. This has had first reading and ample discussion and is now on the agenda for final reading. Is there a motion?
Mr. President,
Trustee Kramer.
I move that we adopt this ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the ordinance on final reading. Are there any comments or questions? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Brandon?
Aye.
Dillard?
Aye.
Kopaczynski?
Aye.
Kramer?
Aye.
McCray?
Aye.
O'Neill?
Aye.
Mayor Ostenberg?
Aye. And the ordinance is adopted, so we have a budget.